This is ATL Day Ones, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta. And it starts now.
Welcome into ATL Day Ones with Jarvis and Tenitra. We want to say thank you for making ATL Day Ones your first listen of the day. And remember, we're free and available wherever you download your podcast. And wherever you download your podcast, make sure you leave us a 5-star review because we don't hide greatness on this show. And as you can see, that is not Tenitra. That is Reggie Chatman, sports anchor reporter for 11 Alive. Part of our, Techno family over here. We up here doing it big over here. I want to say a quick welcome to you, man. Thank you for joining us today, and we're gonna let the folks know what's popping off in Atlanta today, man.
Man, I'm excited to be here, man. I appreciate you for having me on the pod. It's an honor to be able to try and be on here and drop some knowledge on folks. It's interesting. I'm normally on the side of asking the questions. We're on the I get to finally get some opinions now, so I'm ready for it.
No doubt about it, man. I'm going to be asking the question. You know me, man. I'm hard hitting. Don't start crying, man. That's all I ask.
Big journalism on this side on the ATL Day One pod. I know how it works, man. I'm ready.
Yes, indeed. So we got a lot of good stuff on board for you today. Obviously, Reggie joining us. Tenitra is out. She'll be back. So don't go anywhere. I know how much I love Tenitra, but the Braves, they lose again. They 4-4 on the road. We'll talk about whether or not or what they need to do in order to turn that bad boy around. And the Atlanta Falcons, man. Reggie didn't get a chance to chime in on about the Saints and Falcons on this show, so we're going to give him a chance to do that. And I think I have a solution to an issue that was very glaring on Sunday. I'll give you that. And last but not least, and for the culture, man, they hating on Trae Young again. Like, why must we go through this all the time? We'll talk about that. But first, we got to talk about the Braves losing 4-1 to the San Francisco Giants last night. And obviously, Charlie Moore was struggling a little bit. And then he ended up coming out of the game. And then Jesse Chavez came up and tried to save the day. And that did quite happen. So, but yeah, Reggie, though, man, I think that one of the things that, we talked about the Braves going out on the road and how difficult that can be when they're traveling cross country, man. Is it as simple as the Braves are just ready to come back home and try to show improve against the Philadelphia Phillies?
I think so. I mean, if you look what Brian Snicker said the other day, he said he feels like they've been on the road for a long, long time, and they really have been. I mean, especially when you move from all the way over to the West Coast, you're playing all the West Coast teams. All those teams are usually pretty good, or at least show some sort of fight. And I mean, as a West Coast guy myself, I'll tell you, playing in that ballpark in San Francisco, it's a beautiful ballpark. I mean, it's just a different environment, man. You move to the West Coast, you're in a different time zone. Your family's in a different time zone. You're playing at 9 o'clock in what your body's saying, but it's really only about 6 o'clock over there. I mean, it's a totally different world. And I think also when they looked at it too, they just say, look, we've got only NL East teams coming up at the back half of this schedule once we finally get home. I mean, and I think at the end of the day, it's crazy because we've moved to the point where with the Braves, we're starting to just nitpick things at this point. You finished on a road trip over.
That's how we are, man.
I mean, it's just how it works. It's the West Coast trip, and you end up breaking 500. You have to feel pretty okay with that. At the end of the day, you're still only a half game back behind the Mets. With the chance to play them at the end of the year, you've got only NL East teams coming up, teams that you've beaten all over the place. You've done really well against NL East. So, I mean, I think as long as they're able to break even on the West Coast, they finally get a chance to come home. They're just ready to really lock back in, and I think they'll be able to do it upcoming this week.
No doubt about it. We'll talk about what one player needs to step up in order for the Braves to get those dubs against that NL East. But before we do that, we got to talk about BetOnline.net. Reggie, man, when I'm talking about, you talking about the fastest and easiest way to check in all your better needs, find your favorite sports and events at the #1 online source for odds, lines, and games. Now, we talking about how the Falcons got their behinds kicked last week against the Saints. Well, not behinds kicked. That's a little harsh.
No, we can say that.
yeah, we can say that. In the end, in the fourth quarter, yeah, you got your behinds kicked. Yeah, we'll go with that. But, now they're trying to get a win. They're trying to go out on the road like we just talked about and get a win against the Rams. The over-under for the Rams-Falcons game is 46.5. So if you're struggling as to whether or not you need to bet the over or the under, go to betonline.net. It continues to be the top online source for all your sports wagering information, for live in-game betting, scores, and they even have podcasts. You listen to this podcast. Why can't you listen to this podcast to help you win some money? So what I want you to do, head to BetOnline today or use your mobile device to learn more about the action happening today, because BetOnline is where the game starts. Now, Reggie, we talked about how, the Braves coming back off the West Coast trip. They're getting ready to face off against the Philadelphia Phillies. They're off tonight. They play Friday. First pitch is at 7:20. Max Fried is going to be on the mound. I want to ask you this. Who is the guy that needs to step up in order for them to go ahead and continue beating up on the NL East?
Well, I think you mentioned him. I mean, at the end of the day, you have to have your aces and your best pitchers pitch well. Yes. So you're hoping that Max Fried comes out and dominates like he seems to have been doing all season long against a team that right now, if the playoffs started right now, they'd be playing against in the first round, or at least in a wild card matchup against the Phillies. So, I mean, I think that this weekend series is a really good test to see exactly where this Braves team is. It has the high leverage situation that allows some of these young guys once again to feel what it's like for a potential playoff environment, a potential playoff team. And I think you need to start it off with a guy like Max Fried on the mound. And I also want to say, I think it'd be interesting as well. I mean, as we move to only about 19 games left in the year, we're kind of looking at some of the guys that could kind of come back and help. Between Ozzie Albies, who's trying to work his way back from injury, Mike Soroka has been working his way back from injury, and then I mean, you got a guy like Ian Anderson who's gotten a little hurt and is over there in Gwinnett right now, just trying to figure it out. I think it's also interesting to see that this Braves team has potential to even get better. And bring back some star caliber talent. Ozzie Albies is one of the best players in baseball. Period. Yeah. Switch hitting second baseman, can handle defensively, can hit the ball, can hit for power, can hit for average. You get a guy like that back, and I think it's just interesting. You got an interesting problem on your hands with Vaughn Grissom there at second base. What do you do with him and his bat? You got to keep him in the lineup. He's a rookie. Maybe you move him to left field and just figure it out. I mean, I think the Braves have a really good situation where, you start off at Max Fried tonight, but I'm also just really, really interested in to see what they decide to do with Ozzie Albies, what he looks like coming back, and maybe Mike Soroka, and maybe Ian Anderson if he can kind of figure things out as well.
You know what? I think, when you talk about a guy like Ozzie Albies, because he went 5 for 5 the other night with the walk-off home run. So, he looks like he's primed and ready. Ian Anderson, not so much. He's dealing with some issues. I think he has an oblique issue, so I think he's going to be down for the season. But definitely Ozzie Albies. And I even saw a blurb the other day with David O'Brien, who writes for the Athletic, covers the Braves for the Athletic. He wrote an interesting piece, and I saw a little blurb in there, and he kind of threw it out there. He was like, Vaughn Grissom has been catching fly balls out in left field. So I was just like, yeah, man. Yeah, that sounds real good. I like that. Keep that bat in the lineup, and I think that, that's going to be good for the Braves. But I think that the one guy that I believe that has to absolutely get things going, because I saw this when they put this graphic on the screen yesterday after the game. Like your top 4 guys were 0 for 4. That's Ronald Acuna, Dansby Swanson, Austin Riley, and Matt Olson. Combined 0 for 16, that cannot happen. And I think that Ronald Acuna getting that bad boy going is going to help everybody else, because I refer to him as Nephew Ronnie on this show. Okay. That's what Tenitra and I call him, Nephew Ronnie. Nephew Ronnie has to get the thing going, because once he gets things going, it seems like everybody just kind of falls into place. And I think that's going to help the Braves ultimately, take advantage of the Phillies like they're supposed to, because, they're actually chasing them for a wild card spot. So, go ahead and push them down on the level and go ahead and clinch that wild card spot while you're chasing the New York Mets. So it definitely would be something that we want to definitely see. Now, Reggie, you haven't had a chance to chime in on the Saints, Falcons on this show, so we're going to definitely do that next. But I think I have a solution to the Falcons' problems. We're going to discuss all that next, right? So that's why we have 10 minutes to do a segment, man. So we got plenty of time to chime it in. So don't you guys go anywhere. It's ATL Day Ones with Jarvis and Tenitra with Reggie filling in right here on ATL Day Ones.